Hi, Professor Kalamanis here again. Okay, so we're going to continue our conversation about what goes into these college papers. So we're going to talk about rhetorical design. So we're going to reinforce writing skills, move away from a cut and paste model, increase your authorship, and produce well-written and well-informed essays with a clear rhetorical argument. So what does that mean? In this group of slides, we're going to look at papers, rhetorical structure, including purpose, aim, audience, and medium. There'll be a little bit of conversation about grading, and then we're going to do a treasure hunt, what goes into a paper. So the first thing is to think about, where did rhetoric begin? Rhetoric is said to have started in ancient Greece, and Aristotle had been the father of it. So think about that every student thesis must take a position, and every writing assignment has some kind of purpose. So you can see down here it says purpose. The purpose is to inform, to persuade, to state fact, to elicit a discussion. The aim is often to inform and to generate an ethical argument. Your audience in particular is all college students, and the medium is writing. That is what we do. So sometimes your professors will let you do video, and that's the medium that we're really mostly used to in the 21st century. So Marshall McLuhan in the 20th century had said the medium is the message. So we're working with books and writing. And the way to form these arguments is to use rhetorical appeals. So these are the three rhetorical appeals. So we think about everything that we read or watch, or all these influences, things that make us buy or play games or purchase different items, television, a phone. Advertisers and politicians and even your own friends use these appeals. There's three: the pathos, the logos, and the ethos. Let's start with pathos. It comes from the same word as the root of the word is the same as pathological. And if you think about this, you can see this bird here, and this little bird is covered in oil. Now, David Sirota used a description of a bird covered in oil in a paper that he wrote because he's trying to talk about oil spills. Here's another one: writing a picture of something that is visual to get the audience feel an effective emotional appeal. So this is the pathos. Then we go to the logos. The logos is just like it sounds, logical appeals. Statistics, facts, scientific evidence, credible and relevant information. Here's a graph. This is an example of logos. Right. Notice the source, the cdc.gov. When you put these two things together, you form an ethical argument, and this is what the college paper is hoping to do, right? So just kind of thinking about what standards that are part of a society. And you can Google the word ethics and see what comes up. These are the acceptable ways that we interact. So another important thing is to know your audience, right? If you're writing about gun legislation and you're talking to gun enthusiasts, they're not going to be that interested in it. So let's just look at some ethical appeals. This is good college writing. Each of us must follow our own conscience and live life as we see fit, but if you want to help protect the environment, you will continue to learn more about being a vegan, and join me in spreading the word about this valuable lifestyle. Notice that there's a kind of discussion of what it means to protect the environment, and then there's an appeal to say you should become a vegan. So this student has taken a position. Let's look at another one. What's the appeal here? The pathos, the logos, or the ethos? Notice the logic, right? 3.7 million youths engage in bullying. And then notice the photo. And those two things together are what forms the ethical argument. We get emotional when we see a kid being bullied. And then we have the statistic. We can see the ethical appeal in advertising, but can we spot it in the medium of essay writing? So here we have again, here's the ethical appeal. The student is writing again about veganism. Cows are among the world's producers of methane, most significant greenhouse gases in the world. If you and others choose to become vegan, fewer of these animals would need to be raised, so both pollution and greenhouse gas emissions could be reduced. So notice that the student has put together the feeling and the logic. So those are our rhetorical appeals. The logical, the pathological, and the ethical. And so these two things together form the pathological, logical argument, which is then the ethical argument. That is your goal, the ethical argument. Okay, thing to think about. Who's who in an English class? Notice that the instructor only acts as a guide. Every written argument has a purpose. Then we want to review, right? We talked about writing process. Reading is pre-writing, drafting, these like short homework assignments. Then you might have a peer review, then you're revising, then you're proofreading. And note that this may take more than one draft. Of special note is that student papers take a lot more time than students allow. So when working on your assignments, keep track of information that you research. This is one of the reasons that I say that, I give you like a time frame. Another thing to consider is that it's tempting to purchase a paper or to cut and paste from Google or internet sources, or ChatGPT just can't satisfy these assignments. Be careful to cite your sources to know that you're not plagiarizing, and it's okay to use outside sources for some class, but in-text citations have to appear. We'll talk about that more in the coming weeks. Let's just go to grading. Remember that grades are for the student to have an evaluation of the quality of the work. College English has weighted grades. Students receive the grades they earn, and quizzes and classwork are a small percentage of the overall grade. The bulk of the grade is the portfolio at the end of the semester, or the final. Okay, so we covered these topics. We want to just reiterate that it's a process. Every student thesis has to take a position. Every writing assignment has a rhetorical purpose. And now we're going to do a little bit of a treasure hunt to remember what to include in your paper. So here are the instructions. We're just going to think about clues. It makes an acronym. That's something that stands in for another phrase. So we're going to have an acronym. There's 8 clues and they form a phrase. It's 3 words when you're done. So here you can pause your video. This is the clues. Rhetoric is the art of an argument, said Aristotle. Number 1, the 2020 Republican Party candidate, the first letter of his last name. Number 2, a verb that describes what a person does when they're hungry, the first letter of that verb. Number 3, in this quotation, there's a part of the speech which is called an article, and the first letter of that article. What is the antonym for soft? The third letter. What is the first person pronoun? What is a homonym for the word to? First letter. What is a preposition meaning above or looking above? The first letter. And then complete the sentence. Every student thesis must take a blank, the first letter of that, or every written assignment has a rhetorical blank, the first letter of that. So take a moment to pause, and then we're going to go to the answer. So you can pause here and keep this slide up. Okay, so here are the 8 clues, right? What did you get? The first one is the Republican Party candidate. The first letter there was Trump. So that's T. Then we go to a person eats. The first letter there is E. Then an antonym for soft, which is hard. The third letter there is, whoops, sorry, projected above quotation. The article was an, so A. Then we go to the third letter, which is H-A-R-D, right? Tear. First person pronoun is the word I. A homonym means it sounds the same. So the same sound as T, the first letter is T. And then a preposition meaning above, which means looking up. And same thing. Every student thesis must take a position. Every writing assignment has a rhetorical purpose. So the phrase is tear it up. I hope you got the phrase. Next week we're going to talk about what that phrase stands for. It's just a way for you to remember what you need to do. So just to review, we just talked about rhetoric, we talked about logical, ethical, and emotional appeals, the ethos, logos, and pathos. We talked about how every argument needs to have some kind of purpose, that your audience are your peers, and that your assignments may sometimes take up a little more time than you think. So just remembering the design and that phrase at the very end, which you're going to want to use, which is called tear it up. All right, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.